Welcome to the title screen here. I think I've given a little bit of an introduction already. And I will mention because we're essentially focusing a little bit more on the protein side of things. I anticipate it's going to be a little bit of a shorter, I suppose, time to present. So if there's any questions along the way, please feel free to unmute yourself. I'll keep an eye on the chat as well. So if you'd like to ask any questions. Sometimes I might miss them, but I'll definitely towards the end, go through them. So if anything sort of pops up in your mind, feel free to ask away. And while anyone is on here this evening, if you do have any particular questions about meal replacements, I can definitely answer them, but we can talk about it in a bit more detail. Beautiful. All right. So starting off is, I suppose, who benefits from protein powders and meal replacements. So you may have some questions, do I need it? Do I not need it? What are they helpful for? So hopefully, this will help in your decision making. So I suppose the first point is people with increased protein needs. So some of I suppose the people that we speak through, at Alevia or speak to through Alevia, sorry, can have or be at a stage where they're post-surgery, especially bariatric surgery. And generally speaking, during the healing process, we're moving forward to support that rapid weight loss, which is the fourth point there. Usually there are higher protein needs needed. Older adults. So basically sarcopenia, if you haven't heard of that word, it's basically muscle loss associated with aging. So as you do start to age, protein goals actually do increase over time, which, for the most part can actually be tricky to meet. I suppose with those that we're speaking to today, a lot of you, are using appetite suppressant medication. So it can be difficult to meet that through food, through food alone. But just generally, sort of aging as well. Again, very generally, there can be a general sort of decline in appetite. At the same time, we also have athletes or people who, essentially, exercise quite a lot. So to prevent muscle breakdown and to support, muscle growth. Again, there is an elevated need for protein. And then again, the point I made earlier is during rapid weight loss. So although I suppose those of you that are on the presentation tonight, but just in general who may be listening, I suppose the rate of weight loss is very variable from person to person. Some people can experience with the use of these medications, can experience rapid weight loss. So we need to monitor that and ensure that we're preserving muscle mass at the same time. But for others, maybe a little bit more gradual. But that may mean, you may be preserving muscle mass if the scales are sort of trending down at a somewhat slower rate. Beautiful. So, second point is people struggling to meet protein needs with food alone. So, this can be challenging for those that are vegetarian or vegan. Those that may have preferences. I don't particularly like to use the word fussy eaters, but I suppose most people are familiar with what that means. So I decided to go with that word. But yeah, we know it's a little bit more complex than that, and that sort of goes into those that have texture aversions. And those with high protein targets and low total energy intake. So that's where these protein powders can be really helpful. As we move forward, we'll go through some of the calorie and macronutrient breakdown of protein powders, and you'll start if you don't sort of know already, but they can be very protein efficient, meaning that you get a lot of protein for a very low calorie content. So that can be helpful. I suppose in this context, again, for those on a weight loss journey, those using the appetite suppressant medications, are wanting to get lower calories but keeping protein high, so they can definitely sort of fill some gaps. Beautiful. So weight management clients, so basically those who we speak to. So with protein powders, it does help in promoting fullness, which is what satiety means if you haven't seen that word before. Again, as I mentioned earlier, muscle preservation during weight loss. It helps, I suppose, to help with structured intake. So they can be convenient essentially. So yeah, throughout the day to help reach those protein goals. More specifically, which again we won't focus on too much, but meal replacements can help to get everything that you need in a portion control. Again, they're convenient. And also a big part, more to do with meal replacements, while appetite, yeah, is, can be suppressed. And also, I do come across people that experience taste changes, and things aren't as, I suppose, nice as what they remember them to be, or preferences change. These can help with just reducing sort of decision fatigue when it comes to making meals, exploring what you like, what you don't like, in the meantime. So they can be helpful in that way. And then basically, yeah, people needing portable, convenient nutrition. So shift workers, flying, essentially the same as, yeah, give or take, fly in, fly out workers, time poor. I've noted parents there, but you don't have to have kids to be time poor. There are lots of other, I suppose, considerations there. And those that have long travel days. So yeah, across my experience, there are many people who spend lots of time either, yeah, on planes, in cars, so they can be really convenient to take along with you as well. Beautiful. So, as you can see, they can help, yeah, a range of people. And I think some of those sort of points might ring true for you. And this is where, a protein powder more specifically, yeah, can come in handy. Beautiful. So, well, it doesn't work with the keypad. Are they essential? No. So they absolutely can be convenient, and help many people sort of get sorry, just let people in, get over the mark with their protein intake. However, they're tools, not necessities. Yeah, if you've spoken to a dietitian, or even I know yeah, the doctors at Olivia are very well educated when it comes to protein, especially. And oops, sorry, just letting people in again. And so, yeah, it can be possible you can reach your protein goal through food alone. If that's convenient and achievable for you, then there's no need for a protein powder. They don't offer any further benefit than what protein from food can offer. If anything, for the most part, one of the downsides of protein powders is that they do lack other nutrients, so other vitamins and minerals, and macronutrients as well. So as we know, some protein sources can come with extra fiber, especially if they're plant-based in nature, and healthy fats, especially something like nuts or yeah, fish especially. So if we rely too heavily on protein powders, we'll be missing out on all those other benefits that come through food-based protein. Beautiful. So again, they can be useful for medical appetite convenience or high protein demands. And as I mentioned earlier, they're not superior to food, but can be more practical. And yeah, I suppose people, again, if you rely on them, too heavily, they're not a way to compensate for, I suppose, a poor dietary quality. Again, wanting to get most of the protein from food. Beautiful. Any questions so far? Or comments even? Yeah, if anyone wants to chime in. All good. All right, beautiful. So,
I wanted to ask one
yes,
question.
go
I've
for it.
got a raw protein here from the chemist,
Yep.
and it's slim and tone. Is
Yes.
that good, or don't you know it?
Yeah, so what I'll go through, if we don't mind, we'll save that question
Yeah,
for later. I think it'll be really helpful later on, if that's okay, Lisa.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, when we go through the presentation, we'll get a little bit more context around things, and then yeah, maybe we might get some input from everyone else. Yeah, in here. Beautiful. So what I did decide to yeah, leave in the presentation tonight is just talking about the difference between a protein powder and a meal replacement. So I suppose it is in the name for the most part, but I've taken from, I suppose, our mandatory sort of requirements and how I suppose our food governing body legally needs to talk about or how we label protein powders and meal replacements. So basically, protein powder, again, the purpose is to boost protein intake only. They're not intended to replace a full meal. Reason for that is that they're pretty much all protein. So a typical nutrition profile of a protein powder will have about 20 to 30 grams of protein per serve. Otherwise, they're very low or low, I would say, in energy, so kilojoules/calories, carbohydrates, fat, and fiber. But we'll go into that a little bit more and through the different types of protein powders and how that can differ. And by law, they're not required to have any vitamins or minerals. On the other hand, we've got meal replacements. So basically, they are designed to replace a full meal safely. So they must provide, obviously, calories, goodness, I combined two words, calories or kilojoules, energy essentially, protein, essential fats, carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals. So the mandatory requirements is that they have a minimum energy content. So that's usually around, give or take, 200 calories. Depending on, again, this is a conversation for when we do go into this a little bit in a bit more detail, but depending on if they're a VLED, which is a very low energy, or sometimes they're called a very low calorie, so VLCD diet. So those basically will have to have, at least 200 calories. If it's an LCD or an LED, so LCD, low calorie diet, low energy diet, those meal replacements are, can be used once or twice a day, but they're not meant to replace all three of your meals. So if they're an LED, they have a little bit more, I suppose, loose, requirements essentially. But a VLED, sorry, needs to have around 200 minimum protein content. So if it's an LED, usually it's over 12 grams per serve, 12 grams of protein per serve. However, if it's a VLCD, it does need to have more because it needs to meet the very minimum requirement of protein, which for women is around 60, for men it's 80. So obviously if they only had 12 per serve and they're meant to be, I suppose, ingested 3 times a day, that's nowhere near enough. So they definitely need to be closer to the 20 mark. Beautiful. They also have to contain essential fatty acids, 25 of the essential vitamins and minerals, and they have to be within the safe upper and lower nutrient limits as well. So that's basically the difference. So protein powder, basically just there to boost protein. Meal replacement, there to replace a meal. Yeah, and generally speaking, on their own, as we mentioned earlier, meal replacements are high in calories because of all the other nutrients I suppose they contain. Where again, because it's just a protein powder, usually they're a lot lower, unless you make it into a smoothie. Obviously, you're physically adding more elements, so you can definitely increase the calories, but the protein powder on its own is usually a lot lower. Beautiful. Awesome. I'll just double check. So there's something came in the chat. Yeah, beautiful. Oh, okay. Yep. I thought there was a question, but all good. All right, fantastic. So I'll just double check at this stage, since this is pretty much where we won't sort of reintroduce meal replacements from this point forward, and when more be about protein powders. So any questions at this stage? No. Oh, beautiful. All right, fantastic. So these are the types of protein powders I've decided to focus on today, and they're the main ones that we sort of come across. So they do come from, as you can see, various sources. So on the left we've got animal-based, which is whey, casein, and collagen, and then on the right we've got plant-based, which is pea, soy, and brown rice. So again, they're the main ones that we see, and I'll sort of go through them one by one. And I suppose with the information, we can make some comparisons as well. Perfect. So first we have whey. So whey is derived from milk through essentially the cheese making process. It's 20% of the total protein content in cow's milk. The remaining 80% is casein. So I'll go into casein after this, but basically whey is considered a complete source of protein. And what that means is that it contains all the essential amino acids our body needs. So just a little side note on amino acids. So basically, all proteins are made up of a combination of amino acids to form longer chains of proteins, which are called peptides, essentially, if you've heard that word before. So it's just a long chain of of protein. And depending on the amino acids that are together and the structure of these proteins, that essentially dictates what it does in our body. So there are 20 amino acids that exist, and an essential amino acid basically means that we can't make it ourselves. We can only get it through the diet, and there are 9 of them that exist. So there's 9 essential amino acids. Whey protein contains all of them. Another important point, which I didn't add on this slide, is that for it to be helpful to us, it also needs to be in a certain amount as well. So although something may have or I suppose be considered a complete source of protein in that it does have all the essential amino acids, it may still not be complete because those essential amino acids are very low, so they don't have any effect on the body. So basically, whey protein has everything that we need in high amounts that it's, I suppose, physiologically beneficial to us. I will talk about this as well a little bit more, in context with muscle, basically. So that'll be sort of the context I'll be discussing today. So as you also may have come across, there are 3 types of whey protein powder available. So the 2 more popular ones are whey protein concentrate, otherwise known as WPC. So you'll probably see, WPC in large letters, on the labeling. Similarly to whey protein isolate, which is WPI. What's not as common is, whey protein hydrosilate. So usually that's used in more of your, I suppose, your nutrition drinks. So if you've ever come across, now the words, they've escaped me to be honest, but Fortisip is one of them. So basically the nutrition drinks you get when you're in hospital, if anyone sort of had them before. The reason for that is that type of protein goes through a further digestive process where they're broken down even more to make it very, very digestible. So they're usually used in that sort of medicinal way, whereas more just your protein powders that you grab from, now Coles, Woolies, your nutrition warehouses and so on are usually going to be a whey protein concentrate or isolate. So that's what I'll focus on today because the hydrosalate doesn't come around too often. Beautiful. So I've just put them basically all together. So I'll start with whey, protein concentrate up the top here. So as you can see, the protein content varies very, very widely. So it will be, brand dependent. So as you can see, the protein content is anywhere from 35% to 80%. When you look at the nutrition label, it should state, hopefully with the protein powder, it's the first, the first ingredient, but it should state the percentage of the protein, so you know what you're working with. But it will also become obvious on the nutrition label, because basically, with whey protein concentrate, essentially it's not purified as much compared to whey protein isolate and whey protein hydrosilate. So what's left over is some lactose and fat. So that'll come across, again in the nutrition label. Generally speaking, whey protein concentrate is a little bit higher in calories because of the lactose and the fat that's left over. And obviously, when you go further in, it will be higher in sugars, which essentially, lactose will fall under, and fat. However, there are some what we call bioactive compounds left over. So lactoferrin and immunoglobulins that we have in milk, and these are basically helpful. They're part of our immune system. They're an antioxidant, so they're helpful, to have sort of residual lying around in the whey protein concentrate. But obviously, you can just get them from dairy products as well. So it's definitely not essential. It's just a nice little bonus. And yeah, they're suitable for general nutrition support, muscle recovery, but obviously not ideal for those with a lactose intolerance because more of the lactose can be left over during the processing. Beautiful. So then we go into whey protein isolate. So this is highly purified compared to whey protein concentrate. And as a result, it has minimal lactose and very low in fat. And again, sorry if I didn't make it clearer before as well. On the nutrition label, some brands will actually highlight the lactose and how much they have, per serve or per 100 grams. But sometimes the lactose will just fall under sugar, which it is essentially. So sometimes some brands make the distinction, others just sort of lump it under sugar. So it's a bit hard to tell. But generally speaking, it is very low. It is rapidly absorbed. So compared to whey protein concentrate, purely because of the leftover fat, it does slow its digestion ever so slightly. But whey protein isolate is absorbed a little bit quicker, and it's so making it well suited for post-exercise recovery. Or if you're, I suppose, going along with a lower carbohydrate and or you have lower calorie goals, obviously that's going to fit a little bit better. Just a note on, I suppose, making it well suited to post-exercise recovery. What we know with building muscle is that when you get a big influx of amino acids, within the muscle, that stimulates muscle, what we call muscle protein synthesis, which is basically you're building muscle. So that rapid increase in your overall amino acids, what's what I'm looking for? Yeah, sparks that to happen. So that's why if it's a little bit of a slower digestion, you don't have as much of a switch to promote the muscle synthesis compared to if you get that large influx. So that's why the isolate usually is the one to go for. If you're wanting to build muscle, preserve muscle, and especially in the athlete population where it's spoken about quite a lot, usually they'll go for whey protein isolate. And then lastly, as we spoke about, the whey protein hydrolysate is pre-digested, so for quicker absorption, easy to tolerate, although it can have a slightly bitter taste. Generally, because of the lactose and fat that's left over, whey protein concentrate usually has more of a milky, milky sort of texture when it's mixed with water. Whey protein isolate, not so much. It's a little bit lighter, but still somewhat on the milky side of things. Whereas, the last one there is quite bitter. And again, it's often used in sports supplements and medical nutritional products that we mentioned earlier. Beautiful. Awesome. So any questions on that slide at all? No, beautiful. And what I will mention as well may come along later on, but a big consideration as well. We can definitely talk about quality, but there's lots of factors that go into why you may choose a particular protein powder. And to be honest, one factor is cost, which is absolutely fair enough. So generally speaking, because whey protein concentrate has less steps in its purification process, whey protein concentrate will generally be a slightly cheaper option, so it may fit in people's budgets. You'll still absolutely get the benefits for preserving muscle, but whey protein isolate is usually just a little bit more expensive, so that's something to keep in mind. Beautiful. Awesome. So I've just done a quick little comparison here. So this is a brand, and I'm a little bit subjective here. I like this brand, so I'm familiar with it. So I've put it up here. So basically, it's a brand, True, beautiful, and it's from New Zealand. So as you can see, there are two products here. So on the left, again, we've got whey protein isolate, which is 96% whey. And as you can see, per 30 gram serve, we've got 110 calories, 26 grams of protein, 0.3 grams of fat, 0.7 grams of carbs. On the other side here, we've got whey protein concentrate. So comparative to some other brands, this is quite high in whey protein. So we're playing with 89 here, which is still pretty good. But you can see the slight differences just in that, not big of a percentage difference compared to if you can imagine you were to get a whey protein concentrate that's closer to the 35%. So even just, with the 7% difference here, we're looking at in another 6 grams of calories. But as we can see, we take away from the protein, we've got a little bit more coming in through fats and carbs. So yeah, I suppose something to consider. But again, yeah, out of these two, there's about a $10 difference in price. If we go a little bit lower, if we go into the 60s and 70s, we'll start to see, sort of a $20-$30 difference. So again, not the end of the world. We can definitely make it fit. And because, you're using protein powder just to boost the protein in a convenient way, it will still give you that boost that you need. But I suppose, yeah, it's the other factors that come into play here. Perfect. Awesome. So then we've got casein. So casein is, as mentioned earlier, the main protein in cow's milk. So whey makes up 20%, casein 75 to 80% of the total milk protein. Like whey, it is also a complete source of protein. It performs somewhat similarly in preserving muscle and building muscle. But as we go through, you'll see, you'll come to see the difference. So the common form in supplements, micellar casein, which again is I would say the most common. Otherwise, there's calcium or sodium, caseinate as well. So we don't see that one too often. Usually it's the micellar, up the top. So with casein, when you ingest it, it does form a gel-like sort of clot, or I suppose mass, sort of in the stomach, which delays or slows digestion, essentially delaying amino acid absorption. So instead of getting a big rush of amino acids into our body like whey, this is a little bit more of a slow, steady release. So again, it doesn't pull the trigger for muscle protein synthesis like whey does. But what's also another important factor is the total protein you have, sort of floating around in the body. So it definitely still helps. And basically, where you may choose to use casein as opposed to whey is, I suppose, during long fasting periods. So, yeah, before bed, if you've, sort of worked out in the evening, this will probably be, a good option because you get that sort of slow release of amino acids into the bloodstream. So again, down the bottom before sleep, if you've had an evening, sort of resistance training. And then, as mentioned before, it still helps to achieve a positive muscle protein balance over extended periods. So even if you were to have, sort of a casein protein powder in the morning, but throughout the day, you're having other sources of protein that contain whey, which most, as you can see, most dairy does, you'll still get that rush as well. Beautiful. But out of the two, we still would go, for a whey protein if muscle building and muscle preservation was the goal. Awesome. Perfect. So again, this is just most people sort of have seen this. You can get it at Coles and Woolies. So basically, per 30 grams serve, we've got 107, my mistake, calories, 18 grams of protein, so a little bit less, 1.2 grams of fat, 4 grams of carbs. But as you can see with with a lot of casein protein powders, they do come with potentially a little bit more, sort of ingredients, which is not the end of the world by any means. It just means that will contribute, to the fats and carbs. So it's not necessarily coming from the protein itself. It is sort of those additions there. One thing I will mention though, again, if you're doing any baking and want to put some protein in baking, casein works very well. So sometimes whey protein powder, sort of impacts how things are baked and the very complex sort of chemical reactions that happen in baking. I'm a terrible baker, so it's too much of a science project for me. So casein does perform a little bit better in baking. So for example, like even protein pancakes, obviously for making protein muffins, usually it lends itself quite well and still gives you a nice fluffy I suppose product instead of something that's rock hard and dense, which whey usually has or does. Beautiful. Awesome. So lastly, we have collagen. So I apologize if there are any vegans or vegetarians in the call, but basically, I suppose the fact of the matter is this is definitely not appropriate for vegans. and vegetarians for the most part as well. But basically, collagen protein powder is derived from pig skin, bovine hide, so essentially, yeah, cow skin, animal bones, and fish scales. So, in basically in humans and animals, it makes up a large part of our skin, tendons, ligaments, bones, cartilage, blood vessels, plus, yeah, a lot more. It's essentially the most abundant protein we have in our body. And its main role is to provide structure, strength, and elasticity, sorry, to tissues. So although it is an animal based protein, unlike whey and casein, it's not a complete source of protein. And because of that, it doesn't directly stimulate muscle protein synthesis, again, like whey, casein, and I'll get to soy in a moment as well. In saying that though, if you have spoken to me, there's a high chance that we have spoken about collagen protein powder for a number of reasons. There are a few brands out there that are considered, I suppose, more of a complete source of protein because they do add in the missing amino acids. So, the Feel Good brand, for example, one of the amino acids that's missing is tryptophan, so they add that in. The Fit for Me brand, again, they add in the tryptophan, but they also have increased the leucine content, which is a type of amino acid. And leucine is essential. It's basically the type of amino acid that actually flips the switch, turns the switch on to help build muscle. So again, collagen is very low in that, and there's a bit of a comparison I'll show later on. But yeah, it is quite low. But with the Fit for Me collagen, they've added a little bit more to help, yeah, with that muscle side of things. Another part of that, though, as I mentioned earlier, what's also important for preserving muscle is the overall protein availability and amino acid availability. So, obviously, when we have collagen, it still breaks down into its individual amino acids, so it still contributes to our overall, yeah, I suppose, protein floating around in the body. So that can be helpful over time. It's just not a type of protein powder in conjunction with exercise that stimulates muscle protein synthesis. But another reason why it can be helpful is that it's very gentle on the gut. So unlike whey, casein can be a little bit better, but for the most part, sometimes whey can be a bit tricky to manage, especially with the increased sort of sensitivity and the slowing of digestion with the use of these medications. So if whey protein powder isn't doing the trick, absolutely collagen can be can be an option. The other benefit, so it's gentle on the gut because it contains zero lactose, so it's essentially obviously lactose free, which is great for some. It's not a dairy protein, so even if you have a dairy intolerance or a milk protein intolerance, it works as well. And it does have slower digestion to whey. So the faster digestion can trigger the bloating, cramping, and urgency to use the bathroom. So we find that collagen doesn't have that impact, and generally it's low FODMAP. So if you do just have IBS that is triggered by FODMAPs, usually it's very well tolerated in that sense. So it may just be an option, if those are considerations for you. Beautiful. So, perfect. So this is the Feel Good, tasteless protein. So per 30-gram serve, we've got 13 calories, 28 grams of protein, 0 grams of fat, 0 grams of carbs. So it is quite pure. The only thing is, again, from a muscle building point of view, probably not the best. So I've just done some comparisons. So leucine, isoleucine, and valine, they're some of the essential amino acids that have been shown to be most, helpful with building muscle. So in the tasteless protein, per 100 grams, it's just an easier way to make a comparison, but there's 2.7 grams or 2,700 milligrams. With the whey protein isolate, we've got 9,000. Again, isoleucine, we've got 1,400 milligrams. Whey protein isolate, we've got 5,800, and then valine, we've got 2,400 compared to 5,100. So as we can see, whey protein isolate is significantly higher. And per serve, so again, if we break it back down to 30 grams, this will come up later on with leucine, especially. Again, for building muscle, we're looking for 2 to 3 grams or 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams per serve. So that's what's yeah, been found to stimulate enough to stimulate. So as you can see, leucine in the tasteless protein, not enough. You'd have to have 100 grams, which is essentially, I know this particular one, a serve is actually 15 grams. So you'd have to have a lot to get that leucine. So not the most efficient, but again, it can be helpful overall. Beautiful. Awesome. So, yeah, so that's pretty much the yeah, the animal-based protein powders. So we'll go to plant-based. But any questions so far? And actually, I did see things come up in the chat. Yeah, yeah, go for it. Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. Just a question around metabolism, gut, and I'm thinking constipation that probably those of us on Munjaro know very, very bloody
Very
well.
well. Yep. Yes.
Can our choice here of the type of supplements influence that?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And look, I will say that will come down, yeah, to an individual level. So actually, on yeah, my last slide, it is monitoring, yeah, gut symptoms. So it can be difficult, I suppose, yeah, with monitoring that and picking the direct sort of cause. Obviously,
Mm,
changes in gut, yeah, so multifactorial.
yeah,
But yeah, if really the only thing that you have changed is, yeah, including a protein powder, everything else has, stayed pretty much the same, then yeah, it might be worthwhile looking
yeah,
for another option. Yep, yep.
yeah. I've never thought about this. I mean, I've used the
Yeah,
same protein
yeah,
powder since the beginning of my journey, and
yes,
so I don't
yeah,
want to be too personal in these forums, but
yeah, yeah,
constipation, major
yep,
challenge for a long time.
yeah,
So now
yep,
I'm thinking, oh, I wonder if there's something I can do differently that might
yeah,
support something.
absolutely.
Yeah,
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 absolutely.
yeah.
So
Wow, thank you. Yeah,
okay, yeah, it absolutely may be worthwhile sort of, yeah, trying out other options. And I will mention, yeah, I suppose going, yeah, physically to, yeah, I suppose a supplement store, yeah, I suppose Nutrition Warehouse, Elite Subs, all that.
yeah.
Usually they're pretty good and they will give samples. So yeah, if you want to,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Right.
they're usually
Okay.
fairly generous in that way before committing, yeah, to a 1 kilo. I suppose they
Yeah, yeah.
very large, yeah, obviously, yeah, containers. So it can be hard to commit. So usually they'll do, yeah, they're happy to sort of give some samples
Mm,
to give it a go. Yeah,
yeah, thank you.
yeah, that's okay. No problem. Beautiful. All right, I'll just double check. Oh, yeah, that's what you asked. Sorry. Yeah, awesome. So I saw it just in the chat there. Thank you for saying it out loud. All right, beautiful. So awesome. So now we have more of your plant-based, yeah, protein powders. So these are obviously, yeah, you can absolutely choose them over a whey protein, even if, yeah, you're not a, yeah, vegetarian or vegan. But obviously, these protein powders will suit if you follow those that I suppose dietary lifestyle. So these again are the three main that we sort of see come around. In saying that though, there's always new ones that are popping up. They're getting really creative and yeah, exploring lots of different yeah, sort of proteins when it comes to the plant-based side of things. But the main ones that we see are soy, pea, and brown rice. So with soy, it performs very, very closely to whey protein. So they've, I suppose, through clinical trials, they've done some comparisons between the two, and sorry, excuse me, they've actually found them to be essentially the same. So again, soy protein out of your plant-based protein powders is a complete source of protein. Again, it contains all those essential amino acids, high in leucine, and as mentioned, it's the best plant option for muscle protein synthesis or building yeah, building muscle essentially, and high digestibility, meaning that with the protein that you ingest, you actually digest and absorb most of it. Whereas with some of the others here, a little bit lower. We have pea protein. So this is an incomplete protein. So it's low in methionine. If you do a bit of a comparison, I might sort of bring your attention over to brown rice. So it's an incomplete protein, but it's low in lysine. So they actually are the opposite of one another. So you'll generally find that pea protein and brown rice protein will be paired together. because when they are paired together, they end up making a complete source of protein as they complement one another. So on their own, I suppose they're incomplete, but you will see a lot of them, will use a combination of different plant-based protein powders so they complement and end up being a complete source. Beautiful. So with pea protein, it is moderate leucine. So sometimes what you can do as well, get a separate leucine powder and just sort of top it up if needed. And that can work the same with rice protein. But again, if you pair them, rice protein is low in leucine, but the moderate and low together gets it up over the edge where it does become, again, a complete source of protein. We've got enough leucine to stimulate that muscle protein. Again, pea protein is low FODMAP, easy to digest. Only downside as well, which is another very important factor, is, I suppose the texture and taste. And I know that obviously can heavily influence, the protein powder that you choose at the end of the day. And, with all the options available, sometimes it definitely is, a bit of trial and error. And then, basically we have, I suppose over here, the brown rice protein. So gone through it already, very gut friendly, like the pea protein. Again, it has it does have a grittier texture compared to soy and pea, but it's well tolerated. So IBS, dairy, soy intolerance, and sorry if I think it might be cut off down the bottom of pea protein, it's essentially that point. So can be better tolerated in that sense as well. Beautiful. Awesome. So that is pretty much, I suppose all that I had to say. I'll just sort of finish up on the take-home messages. So I suppose just to keep in your toolbox, an ideal protein powder has a high protein to calorie ratio. So ideally, you're aiming for over 20 grams of protein per serve. Look out for the serves because they're highly variable. It's I suppose not standardized. It's essentially up to the manufacturer to choose what the serving size is, and they will definitely choose that depending on what will look good. I suppose on the front of the packaging, what will stick out on the label. So serving sizes. So with the Feel Good collagen protein powder that I showed earlier, I know I wrote a 30-gram serving, but that was just to sort of so you can compare it across the board. But a serving is 15 grams, so that will come with its own scoop, which is essentially roughly about a tablespoon. So it comes with its own scoop. Whereas with the true whey protein, it's a 30-gram serve. Again, it will come with its own scoop. Sometimes it will say have one scoop. Sometimes it will say 2 scoops. So just making sure that you're, I suppose confirming the serving size, because it is so different across the board. And sometimes a serving size can be 40 grams, 50 grams. Depending on, again, what they want to claim on the front, what the protein content is. So all they need to say, is 30 grams of protein per serve, but the serve can be 50 grams. So sometimes, the marketing can get you a little bit on that one. Not to sort of just take what's sort of on the front of the label, investigate a little bit further as well. And what will be helpful, which I'm sure most of you may do already, but when you're comparing between, 2 different types of protein powder, go by the per 100 grams, because that's what standardizes both of them. They've got nowhere to hide. It's 100 grams of A, 100 grams of B, and you're making direct comparison. Where obviously if you compare the serve, again, you can be looking at a 15-gram serve compared to a 40. So that can be really helpful. Awesome. So ideally, again, looking for about over 20 grams of protein per serve, with less than 5 grams of combined fats and carbohydrates. Again, what you'll find, which may have come through with the casein protein powder, that can be attractive because that comes in lots of different flavors. So protein powder on its own, if you don't have time to make a smoothie and sort of mask that flavor, or make it a little bit interesting, that's where something that is flavored, may be helpful. And if that's the case, it may be a little bit higher in sugar, essentially carbohydrates, and potentially a bit higher in fats as well, depending on what they use, which is okay. Beautiful. Awesome. So as I mentioned earlier, you're looking for adequate leucine to stimulate that muscle protein synthesis. So as mentioned earlier, there's, I suppose, all of the 9 essential amino acids are important. They do play their part in building muscle, but out of them, leucine is the most important. So you're looking for around 2 to 3 grams or 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams per serve. We know that that's enough to get that protein, that muscle protein synthesis going. And then, as mentioned earlier, so you want to match basically the protein to your gut tolerance. So if you do have, I suppose, a lactose intolerance, going for WPI, that is purified a little bit more, that more of the lactose has been removed, or collagen that contains no lactose. Obviously, a plant-based protein will do the trick there as well. Pea or rice for more IBS and, again, sort of food sensitivity. So soy, is quite a common allergy or sensitivity. So in that case, obviously, soy won't be the best option. So pea or rice tends to be pretty well tolerated. And again, as mentioned earlier, it's still, it is important to monitor for bloating, reflux, cramping, and looser bowels. Again, and not to say, constipation can't be part of that as well. So, beautiful. I know this is a bit broad to say, but I suppose choosing protein powders with a short ingredients list. So avoiding sort of excess thickeners, colors, artificial additives, especially, probably should have put that at the start, if you're gut sensitive. So it's not to demonize those things at all. As I mentioned earlier, those things, to make it a little bit more palatable, a bit more convenient. So all you're having to do is add water and you've got something that tastes nice. Those things are definitely not the end of the world. But if you do have a bit of a sensitive gut, they can trigger those IBS symptoms. Or if you notice a change or IBS like symptoms are triggered, it may be because of those those additives in protein powders that sometimes we miss or don't sort of consider. So sorry, I didn't want to sort of demonize those those ingredients altogether. It's just to look out for the gut changes potentially. And very generally speaking, the price will dictate the quality. So less expensive powders, often contains fillers. So gums, maltodextrin, tapioca starch. So basically they're sort of non-nutritive. They don't offer us any, much nutrients, but they're a way to sort of give a bit more, a bit more volume. So, to help essentially make it, a cheaper product. But again, at the same time, a higher price doesn't necessarily mean better quality. So that's where comparing, one to another can be helpful. And then just sort of red flags to look out for them. You definitely don't need anything that says fat burning or any sort of detox claims. I suppose, with supplements, they're not very highly regulated in most places, Australia, around the world. So unlike meal replacement, which are very, very highly regulated, and the claims that they make absolutely have to be substantiated, with protein powders, they don't need to. So fat burning, for example, they've just taken some research to show that some elements, can increase metabolism, but it's so insignificant that it's not going to make a change to anything. But they've taken that, they've slapped it on, and similarly with detox as well. We've got livers and kidneys that do that for us, so you usually don't need those extra bells and whistles, especially in the way of a protein powder. And if they do have those sort of claims, usually they justify it and really hike up the price. So red flags, just go for a nice plain old protein powder. That's basically what you'll need it for. Beautiful. So that is all from me today.